What is up, you guys? What is up? What is up? What is up? So, hopefully, everybody's doing great. So, first things first, I'm going to show you guys is the new logo, and I'll explain more about this. So, hopefully, you guys enjoy it. Put a lot of thought in this and had a company do it for me. So, hopefully, you guys like it. So, hopefully, you guys' days are going well. and, a lot of things have happened the past week that we need to cover, and a lot of good things too. Um, First things first, I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. Really appreciate all the support. A few people are going to be like, "Why are you not in Jersey?" I'm kind of underneath the weather. I've got a cold that I get every year, so I've kind of like not in the mood to put one on. But I did get my Fightful gear, so I figured I'd throw the sweatshirt on. Why not? Anyways, Grimes started out with him attacking Priest out of his car. Uh, you just see Grimes running away, and Priest basically laid out right next to his challenger. I believe that's what it is. Um, Grimes is trying to make fun of it, saying he doesn't want to fight him. Priest makes it all into about himself. You know, it's basically like a back and forth for the most part, just like usual. WWE kind of BS stuff. Grimes basically starts the match with him, with Priest takes to the fences, but Grimes is basically majority in the control. Priest hits a choke slam, and Grimes rolls away at about to buy time, and then Grimes time he pushes Priest into a rail, and Priest is basically in control. Uh, Grimes' weight when he put up the Razor's Edge, it looks so dangerous for Priest to do it, but his weight just shifted down on him. It was insanely how things went out. But Grimes wins because of the Priest's health was what made the difference. So, got a promo in the back for Rhea and Stone, telling her that he wants a part of the brand. He signed Aaliyah. It's just going to set up a match for tomorrow, which we'll talk about later. Thatcher's, catch wrestling promos are mint. They're always great. I'm so stoked for it. I'm so excited for that stuff. I can't wait to see what they're going to do with Thatcher. I'm hoping they do something soon, because at least with him, it'll be interesting to see how much fun it's going to be where he teaches these people. And if they're actually people he's teaching, it will be one of those things for me I will be like ecstatic about. UE space segment, trying to get Strong to get in the trunk. It's like one of those Italian mafia kind of things, You kind of want to see a person throw somebody in a trunk, and it just doesn't work out. But he comes over his fear, and he's going against Loomis towards the end. But Cross basically comes out, and that match is very hypnotic, and they've changed it a little bit where Scarlett doesn't come out singing that much, but it's really, really good. It's like mesmerizing, and Cross being a beast with her, it's intangible. It's one of those entrances that makes you glue on your teeth. Speaking about Taker, like his Cross has that kind of it factor, where just that entrance itself is just worth the price to watch. And then you go right into two big beefy dudes go right at it. Reed's basically taking it to Cross and basically turning it up to a volume 10. Cross is actually turning it around and asking Reed, this is what you wanted. You don't hear that often from a wrestler say, this is what you wanted. And basically Reed's giving it to him. Reed's rallying back. Cross hits a German on Cross. Reed's running around into the Northern Lights suplex. Reed is trying to give it his all. Doomsday's Saito, and then that's it with the straight jacket and then the tap for the win. It was really good. Besides the triple threat later on the night for NXT, it was really good. If that was the main event for the night, I would have probably been extremely happy. Cole saying he doesn't care, next on a promo saying he doesn't care who he faced. He better, just because of that, What's up, boys? Rob, Warren, Anakin. What's up? I know Sean's listening, doing the bike. So, um, other than that, you got, a squash match with Rhea and, Leah. There's not much really to say. Rhea was in control the entire time. You know, Leah in a prison trap. Stone throws the shoe. Aaliyah is basically taken advantage of. Riptide for the win. And then the match is set for Wednesday for, American Bash, where if Rhea loses, she becomes part of the Robert Strowman brand, which should be interesting. It's like an all or nothing kind of match. Loomis, this was almost like a comedy skit, not a match. It just seems weird that he's still scared of Loomis and he's staring down on him. And Loomis has not even moved yet. At once, it literally was like stoic. Rob, don't do that. Don't poke the bear. But I'm glad everybody's here. It's just the mind games and stuff. I wish they could put Cross and Loomis together, and it would be like almost Taker when he was in his prime. There'll be a lot of Taker themes in the show running through for the most part. Not NXT, but my show tonight. Loomis is walking around stalking Strong. Strong hits the plexiglass on himself. Fish is pleading for Strong to come back, but he gets hooked into Loomis' submit. Loomis is just minting all this and stuff. It was real good. Regal grants the match, obviously, with Ali and Stone against Rhea. But the match of the night and the match of the week, yes, I am. And it's the 62 degrees in my house, and I don't feel good. I've got a cold, so just bear with me, okay? I've got my Fightful hoodie on right now. Honestly, I believe this triple threat was the match of the week. Simple as that. Just the psychology of it and stuff. Lee was in control and unloading on both Balor and Gargano. This in stating that this is the main event. He is the main event. And I solely believe Lee is that. I watched Mark Henry at the Broken Skull Ranch, and he even says that he is ushering the next big man, which I fully agree with. Balor and Gargano are going at it. Lee, Balor hits the final cut, one count away from being the North American champion from Balor. Balor with the sling blade, Lee rises up, and I swear, and I saw this on Rob's Twitter about the whole duck hunt thing. If you look at that meme that's going around and you see how, duck hunt is generally one of those games where the dog rises up. It reminded me of Keith Lee going right up, and you see him literally rising up his head in the corner and go for on. What's up, pal? All right, pedal on 6. What's up? Wow, I didn't mess up. Balor was great in this, and Johnny was still strong on this, and they made Lee look like $1 billion. I mean, Balor had the sleeper hold on Lee. He was down on one knee, and Gargano kicked him, and then Gargano went off and hit the final beat DDT. I thought that was almost the end of the match, but there was more to this, and it was great. I mean, Lee pulled him off the pin. Gargano hit a tope upon Lee, on Lee and bounced back on Balor, but Balor got him to set up the 1916 DDT, but Lee actually knocked that out. The finish was really good. Really, really good. You had Balor hitting Lee with the double stomp. They got 2 super kicks. Lee falls on Gargano. I mean, this was fast-paced last few minutes. Gargano rolled up for 2. Lee hit the Big Bang Catastrophe. Balor hit the coup de grace, but Lee wins with by pinning Balor with the Big Bang Catastrophe. I swear to God, these names that Keith Lee uses as Dragon Ball names, and I absolutely love it. This match was simply like top tier. It's not where it was Thatcher and Riddle and AJ and Bryan and not a couple other ones, but it was right up there. And this is probably like a top 10 match of the year just from where everything it is. For me, tea wise, it's green tea, mostly Lipton. I have to make some. I haven't had a chance to. I've been sleeping off and on all day. Smackdown was the first hour was basically a tribute, all the way to Taker. Um, it was interesting that people were pointing out on the review and also during it, and I didn't see it, was that, Cesaro and Nakamura were just, golf clapping, which is kind of a sign of a disrespect towards what I think. But being himself, being a load of fun watching it. They talked about the Harvey Civic Center, talked about 1999, about 30 years ago. It's funny because Taker's first match, had the tombstone in it, and the last match he had was a tombstone, and I thought about that, and that was kind of poignant. The Boneyard match was on there. It was one of the best night one matches of Mania completely. The story that was told, the detail into the story, it also followed around with the documentary. It was interesting how they had to stop tapings when AJ and Taker were hurt. The overhead shots on the camera, was extremely good. It kind of reminded me of the greatest match ever, wrestling match ever, with the overhand cameras. It was really delicate, really nice. It was really brilliant just to see Taker on that bike going that way. Now, I'm a communications geek, so stuff like that I nitpick and I actually like. I could tell if the camera's panned well or not, but, WWE does extremely good, production work. The match started in Fantastic Classic. The match is brutal, kind of like the old school Taker matches where, it was really rough and gritty and hardcore, kind of like, the boiler fight and all these things. It was a perfect way to send him off. It was the perfect way to have him right into the sunset, literally and proverbially. And then, it just made the 30 years of what he did so memorable. For me, there's 5 matches that ring out to true. A lot of people are going to point out to the 4 matches total with Shawn and Hunter at Mania. They're going to talk about the Foley Hell in the Cell, which for me is the number 1 Taker match of all time, just because the brutality of it. I mean, I was 17 years old. I'm 39 now, and literally I remember that match like it was yesterday. Foley being thrown off on it. My uncle was flipping his gears off. He thought he died. He wanted the TV to be shut off. It was interesting. The Inferno matches with Kane, the streak being 28-2. Taker, in my opinion, and I'll go out and say this because I haven't heard anybody tweet this or say this. Taker is WWE and WWE is Taker. Hands down, point blank. Without Taker and WWE in the same way, it wouldn't have worked. If he went to WCW, it still wouldn't work. They go hand in hand. But the physicality, the story on this was amazing, and it showed, Taker how dominant he was and a lot of stuff. It was the perfect person at the perfect time for the perfect match, and and it's the best way for him to set him off. But the promo Corbin really pissed me off. It really ticked me off. I mean, you're gonna go out there and talk to somebody who literally, and I've said this before figuratively, set the pathway for you to do what you do. They laid the ground foundation to do exactly what you do. And you're going to spit on it. Yeah, I know it's wrestling, but still, it's a respect thing. Even if the person's not doing their job, it's a respect thing. It's like saying if podcasting was a promo in professional wrestling and it was actually wrestling. It's like someone going to Warren or Sean or somebody and spitting in their face saying, you can't do this. You stink. And they've done it for 10, 20 years if they did at that point. It's a disrespect thing. You don't do that. Hence why what happened later on Smackdown, that's what ended up being the way it did. Corbin saying that Taker is a bag of bones, that he is, the founder of the Kiss My Ass Club, founding member, that he protects the owner, he's protected by the owners, and steals money from the company for the last 20 years. That's stuff you don't say. That in my ways will get him nuclear heat, and that he's holding back superior people. Corbin, listen, you couldn't lace Taker's boots. You couldn't do anything with Taker's boots. You couldn't even carry them. I've been a fan of his since I was a kid. I was 9 years old when he was literally wrestling in WWE. That's a long time. I've seen a lot of his stuff. It's kind of BS that the WWE went there and started parading Taker, rightfully so, for 30 years of doing what he did. And then you put one person who is not a trailblazer, just getting his feet in for the last few years. And he's cutting a promo degrading somebody who is technically for the last 30 years your company. It doesn't make any sense. So, I mean, if you're going to build somebody for 30 years and try to have one person tear it down within 2 seconds, it's stupid. It's incompetent. And it doesn't even make any promise or sense. Hardy comes running in, thank God. Tees off on him. It was great. In the backstage promo he did with Hardy he said he was, he's going to represent Dead Man University, that, Taker belongs on the Mount Rushmore of the WWE 4 times. For me, I think Taker, when it's said and done and Vince and Hunter decide to have him in the Hall of Fame, I think that he should be the only person in there being nominated and deducted. You need 30 years, you're going to need something like that. What if he eats the boots? I don't know. I mean, Warren, why don't you ask everybody why that hashtag's going on? But of course, you could have cake boots. I don't know. Make, shape a cake shape of a boot. I don't know. Sasha on commentary and Bayley are still gold, regardless of the fact that they're not doing much as a couple of lates. But this is actually setting up the Fatal 4-Way for against Bayley. Like, for her get a chance at her title. The line of the light for me for SmackDown was that, go fight for me. Everybody wants to fight for me. No. I goated that. I goated for that. Yeah. That was a line of the night. It's just, you're Bayley being so self-righteous and full of herself. It's interesting to see this because of the fact that they are fighting for the chance to fight her. But you've got Bliss and Cross, Evans and Brooke and Bayley and Sasha saying beat her. Lacey with a pin and a kick out. It gets a kick out off the bat. Both Lacey and Dana on Cross and Bliss. The match was really good, going back and forth. At one point, Bliss and Nikki were going at each other, but they said, I love you, but it's for the title. Bliss kicks out, and a drop down with Lacey and Bliss. Bayley's still saying that line, they want to fight for me. To me, that's the line of the night. Lacey's in control for the most of it until Dana hits a springboard elbow, and the women's right goes right into it at that point. Alexa trying to stay control. Twisted Bliss missed, but Nikki drop kicks Dana. Lacey sweeps, hits Nikki, and then Lacey, like I said, hit the women's right on Dana, and then Nikki rolls up, and she'll be facing Bayley, which for a pay-per-view that has the worst tagline ever of Extreme Rules Horror Show, having Nikki is the perfect person because she can go off at any time and go on Hedge, which is going to be great. I absolutely think Nikki is doing really good work. I think she's going to excel, and that's the point of her being on there. I think her and Alexa being together is actually the best thing to do. The 8-man tag was really good. It had some spots where for me I was just like, could move past that. Big E rolling down the ramp was funny. It was very creative. Miz and E starting it out. E with the slash on the apron. There was a tag to Dorado. Cesaro basically showing how strong he is and how powerful he is. Mark Henry said that for a guy his size, he's kind of sneaky strong, but he's extremely strong. Strong like butter. And then the double team by Lucha House Party pays off. Shinsuke tags in and Kofi's in there. Trouble in Paradise misses. Morris gets in. Morris is in control and quick tags. Kick and a kick by Shinsuke. Miz and Morrison dominate on Kofi on the way back. Kofi hits a tornado DDT as Shinsuke drags Kofi over the baseball slide to Big E. Shinsuke is going for a finish, but Kofi does a double stomp. Metal Leak in, Morrison in. It's literally they're fast paced going right there, going crazy and stuff. Shooting star press moonsault combination was really good. Once I saw the second buckle moonsault, I was like, okay, so this has got to be the finisher. And nope, it wasn't. The shooting star press wasn't even the finisher. Springboard stunner by Dorado. Grand Metal Leak hits a springboard elbow. Lucha House Party wins while New Day fights Cesaro and Shinsuke all the way towards the back. I'm not going to talk about Corbin. I already did. Corbin's a tool. You pointed out that. Now, I really think that they're going to do a House of Horrors 2 show at this pay-per-view. It only justifies that because of this promo. It leads on to a lot of things where you don't really see how this is going to be. It's going to be wicked crazy. Braun's talking about experiences with Bray. In this beginning of this promo, they made Braun very sympathetic. Made him almost to the point where you felt bad for him for what he went through with the Wyatt family, even though he is the Universal Champion. It made you feel like you want to be how's the word? It's almost like you want to be apprehensive of what's going on and why. But the sympathetic is being more sympathetic as anything. Says Bray, he showed him what true fear is. When Bray got hit, snake bitten multiple times, he was laughing. Says Bray was being attacked over and over again, laughing. And at that he knew he was evil. Braun says that he knew that Bray was the devil himself. He started doing the devil's work, and the bad part is that he loved it. Not much, Arthur. How you doing? That he loved every second of it. Part of it, of Braun doing this promo, made you realize that it was kind of like a psychotic thing. Thank you for the sub, by the way. Really appreciate that. Just gotta move this. Sorry. Thank you for the subscription, Todd. It's just it makes it the psychology of this almost makes it like you really think it's more demented than anything. If that makes any sense. If it was something where you went deep into the psychological mind of it, it was him justifying the fact that what he does is a good thing rather than being bad. It's the difference between knowing what's right and wrong rather than what's positive and negative. Bray being bit multiple times and laughing is showing a psychotic side, a sadistic side that, in the story that we already knew. But Braun admitting that he liked hurting people, that he liked doing what Bray told him to back then, we knew about that, but we didn't know the detail of that. And in psychosis terms, it basically means that he literally was susceptible to certain aspects of his personality. He even talks about it, saying that he locks some of that away and that he's trying to put it in the back of his head, but it keeps coming out. It makes a huge thing where, this ain't the Justice League, my friend. It makes it a little. I get like this sometimes when I think about psychology because I took psychology. It gets it more like he's like with Bray, he's justifying his actions without having to be comprehensive of his mistakes. It's a psychosis where he literally is denying plausibility rather than being objected to what he really is, and which is a big dude. And it's interesting to see where this story is going to go, because at the end he tells Bray, let's go back to the place of your where you were born. Let's go back to the place of your creation. Let's go back to your place where your destruction. Let's go home. The beginning of the end generally starts from where you begin. And it all depends on how things are played out. Now, if this story is done right and they push it to SummerSlam, which a lot of reports are still saying that WWE is still hopeful, and this is just me reading from what I can read that's not off of Fightful. Sorry about that. I really appreciate it that I don't get anybody upset. And when you work, you kind of just skim through stuff real quick, and I just caught that about Boston. They're still hoping to have it in Boston in SummerSlam. Is that going to happen? Very doubtful. But I'm hoping and being hopeful that it is. If that's the case, they're going to end up having, Bray and Braun have The Fiend come out. Now, if this match was in Boston in October, you could justify doing a cinematic match like this during Halloween weekend with The Fiend and Braun in this type of manner, and have it in Salem, have it in some of the old farm towns like Billerica, Bedford, the outskirts of Boston. A lot of the farm areas were considered haunted. Watch Session 9. I implore people, if you're looking for something with quarantine is happening, watch Session 9. That's about an abandoned psychological home, mental institution in Danvers, Massachusetts. It's insane. It's a good movie. It has David Caruso in it. Go see that. That and Memento. Those are two good movies. But those places would be perfect for this match as a cinematic match. Now, them doing it this way, it's kind of a little off kilter, and you're doing it in the middle of summer with this tagline. It doesn't make any sense. You're going to create a House of Horror match in the middle of the summer when you could do it simply in October. And if it was in Boston, and if they did it in Boston, that would be the perfect time, because honestly, I can tell you from experience and talking to people, Salem, Mass is always hopping around that time. Back to everything else. Hardy versus Corbin. Corbin's completely in control for the most of the match. Hardy misses a whisper in the win. Corbin slings him around like a rag doll. The locker room spills out back when the commercial kicks in. Hardy is basically trying to rally back, trying to get everything, starting with a clothesline. As Corbin mocks Braun, uses Hardy's face as a plexiglass thing. It's so absurd to see that plexiglass used for other things than hockey. Hardy hits a couple of jawbreakers. It basically stumbles and stuns Corbin. It picks up real quick. Inverted atomic drop, basement drop kick. Cole says that it's vintage Hardy. Hardy stopped by Corbin. Corbin goes for the deep six and a kick out on 2. Corbin ain't the best heel of the game. Who are you kidding, Evan? I love it, though. Love it, love it, love it, love it. But after the attack, Big E hits him with the big ending after the Swanton Bomb. And WrestleCourt literally kicks in. Which is funny because there's always been a rumor that Taker ran WrestleCourt. He was the judge. So this happening in the public eye is actually interesting to see. Power slam by Braun, floating bro from Riddle. The crowd is going crazy. Hardy ends it with a tribute. It rightfully fitting. I've been seeing that, my friend, a lot recently. A lot. Everybody wants justice. But with Raw, it was interesting because they came out of the bat with the contract signing and a fight off the bat. It all hell broke loose. Joe was trying to do his best to keep it up. Asuka and Bayley are still going at it and Banks. They're all going at it. All three of them. Ziggler comes out with the introduction of Drew, the dual contact signing. Ziggler said he's gonna get what he was given to him, that should have been given to him, and that he'll survive. McIntyre's story will end. It will, basically destroy him with the whole stipulation thing. If there's justice to dole out, I would. I'm not giving anybody justice. I'm sorry. I've got too many good mods, and if they decide to do out justice, it's all on them. Drew's saying there was a time where they were family, brothers. They went for hell and back. Ziggler says he needs to be the center of attention, that when he gets close to the finish line, he never makes it. Now, this is a common thing you hear all the time. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. And in Dolph's career case, that is kind of true. It's sad because of the fact that Dolph is so talented and charismatic and stuff, but he's only had maybe 2 major title runs, I believe. And that's not right. And he should have had at least 1 more, or 2, even 3. Drew told him that he could pick the stipulation of what that's going to be. Who knows? Asuka goes off and does what Asuka does, signs the contract, and then Sasha basically stamps some approval. It was nice to see the stamp back in use again. Sasha says that she's taking over both locker rooms, the whole company, and all hell breaks loose. Ziggler tries to super kids Drew, gets that close to it. And that's the way it starts out with Raw going all crazy and stuff. Just insane kind of thing. Garza is basically hitting on the ref and creating tension with Charlie. It was just interesting to see jealousy comes out, shows out, calling out Orton, Andrade, Zelina, and Garza. Basically cutting a promo, and Zelina saying that show can go back to it with Edge and Christian to the retirement home. I swear, Zelina is awesome. The only other person I could see that could reach to Zelina's caliber right now, if she came back, would be Paige. Paige is awesome. And in Paige being a manager for somebody that has the talent like with Garza and Andrade, that would be interesting. I can't wait to see what they're going to do with these two if they split. Which way Zelina's going to go. Flair comes out, says he needs a word with Show. Says Randy will take him out when he wants to. Flair says that, his day, which Show's day is past him, that Orton is now the new standard. It's just... Yeah, I'll check that out, Evan. Just DM it for me, okay? But straight up, this is just playing cats and mouse games right now. It's just hopefully they actually pull this trigger and have these guys go at it. And if Show takes the fall, that makes sense. But who's going to be up for Randy next? The Viking Experience versus Garza Andrade. It was really good, really entertaining, fun kind of match. Raiders, Ivar I'm telling people, Ivar is a star in the making. He could, if they ever put him and Eric away from each other for a certain amount of time, or if Eric gets hurt, I'm telling you right now, Ivar will do exactly an amazing job. And especially with, the way things happen with the Profits and stuff, that was awesome also. But I think Ivar can do all the stuff on his own. Eric scoop slams Ivar, drops him right down. Zelina is talking about her business moves. Andrade's taking over the match. Fast tags in and out between him and Garza. It was really, really good, real quick. Andrade kicks Eric and they start arguing and they break things down. Andrade flips out and it goes to commercial. They come back and then they're back into control. Zelina says she's the best manager of all time. That's debatable because you have people like Jimmy Hart, Bobby the Brain Heenan, Sonny. I mean, a lot of good people have done the same thing she's doing. But for this generation, yes, I agree that Zelina is probably one of the top, managers right now. Zelina is literally gold on commentary. Put her on there and goes right there. The Eric stack him up. It was great. But Garza hitting the wing clipper and Garza Andrade wins and Zelina's talking trash on the way out. Oh, yeah, that's right. Thanks, Evan. Remind me about Heyman. Top that off. Cornette, yeah, but Cornette gets himself into all trouble. I mean, come on now. The Ruby segment, anytime you see Liv, Ruby, or anybody that they're not using, I'm very for this. It gives them time and gives them exposure, which is great. But the line that the Ruby does about the iconic is literally sick. It just sets that up for later on. The 24/7 title was kind of short anyways, just because of everything. But Tozawa puts a roll up, does that ridiculous stance, which is so wrong in so many ways. But Truth wins. Byron says, run, Truth, as all the ninjas go right after him. MVP shows up on the next promo with the Punisher outfit. Apollo's chance basically is dead. And as they pan the camera over, pan left, Ray's mask is in Rollins' hands, and Rollins says he's got an important message that he has to get to. We stand for justice. Oh boy, here we go. They do a recap of what happened the previous week. Seth being stoic. Psychology-wise, this is basically the same thing. What they're doing with Bray. Seth has a problem where he's trying to justify the actions of a madman rather than justifying, the rights. Says basically that, nothing's going to stop Ray from returning. He says that Ray isn't seeing everything clearly, that if Ray comes back, it's his duty to sacrifice Ray for the greater good of Monday Night Raw. That if he is that he's going to ask forgiveness from Ray for not what he's done, but what he will be doing. And, it goes back and forth. They start arguing a bit. Ray basically says that he needs to ask for forgiveness for his son. So that is something that he has to take care of, that it will be done by design. And Dom says what my dad will do isn't done by fate. To me, that was pretty much a good line. So, I mean, it's true. You can't justify what will happen. Says to be careful, wish for, you might get it. And then we get a match with Rollins, Murphy, Alistair, and Alberto. Which is insane because the match was pretty decent. It wasn't spectacular, but it was very interesting nonetheless. Murphy's in control for the most of the match, which is great. Murphy basically hits a kick with Rollins' interference. Commentary asks what's it going to take to stop Rollins. In Rollins' mind, probably justify the psychological aspect, nothing until he gets what he wants. So they basically are agreeing to what his diagnosis would be, megalomania. Murphy isolates Black, elbow to Murphy, frees up Black for the tag, and Rollins gets into it with Alberto in control. I mean, on top of that, it hits a drop kick. Alberto is trying to attempt a 619 but doesn't connect. Murphy tagged and Black's in it on fast. Murphy kicks up and uses strikes. Springboard moonsault. Murphy rolls out for a kick. Alberto hits the 619 and gets knee strikes by Murphy and kicks out. Rollins hits the knee strike. It was like an abbreviated LOD kind of thing, which was interesting to see. Rollins begging for Alberto to get up, and so he can hit for the stomp. Excuse me, and he obviously Rollins will hit the stomp for the win. The match was pretty good psychologically, but it didn't really satisfy the need for content. It furthered the story along, but it didn't further it much more. Denise is gonna be on. Yeah, I can't wait. I'm pulling for her. If she's here, and you're gonna take that title home. I swear you will. And I'm pulling for you, seriously. But it was a great match going back and forth. Seth is staring at the mask. He forces Alberto to put it on there for the symbolism of it, which is interesting to see. And then Seth hits the stomp on the stairs. They do another tribute for Taker. And like I said earlier, it was the best way to end it. Ruby and Lana are talking about it. It almost seems to me, with the natty stuff, pizza crust, it seems to me like they're going to set Natty up for like a god kind of thing, like a follower kind of thing, where Lana follows Natty the entire time. We're going to get on food, aren't we? Oh, give me a break, man. If we want to talk about food, we'll talk about food. I have plenty of time to talk about all that stuff. Ruby is basically talking to Lana about how, Natty is like a religious figure, that they need to follow Natty. When the fact of the matter is that Lana is the only one seeming to follow her. Now, this is basically a squash match with Peyton and Ruby, which is really sad. I still think Ruby should be doing a lot more. According to Fightful, she has been 11-0 like 0-11. Sorry, since coming back, which is very horrible. That spinning brainbuster for the win was a beautiful thing. It was interesting to see how things go. The match was back and forth, but it was mostly Peyton for them going through everything. They were focusing mostly on the body part, but her and Liv need to work out. Her and Liv need to go through everything else. But that spinning Royce, or the wheel of the Royce or something like that, whatever they're going to call it, that has to be her finish. I fully agree with a lot of people. That has to be it. It looks so devastating. Show and Garza and Andrade. You can hear the wood chopping, boys. I swear it was literally chopping wood. Those things were loud. As Garza basically looked scared as a mouse every time one was coming. He's like not wanting it to do anything with Show. Andrade's trying to take control, and Andrade is throwing everything, and then Show throws him around like a rag doll. Scoop slam by Show. He did a mid-session walkover, and Andrade's trying to fight back. Headbutts by Show, and stumbling tag to Andrade, and Show's running at like a clinic. Another chop. As Lena's, you look at her face, she cringed. It was so horrific hearing this thing. I mean, it was just him doing those chops. If I ever got one, I would probably just start crying. I don't think any person can handle that stuff. Then Show basically hits the chokeslam for the win, and it was a fun match, but it's playing basically to Garza and Andrade's issues. And then KO punch by Andrade. They have to do another name for that, by the way. They call if it was Tyson, they call it the KO punch. Why not give Kevin Owens a punch where they call it the KO punch? Wouldn't that make any sense? MVP's promo that right before his match with Apollo, calling Lashley limitless. I think Keith Lee would have a problem with that, won't you? It's ridiculous to see them trying to use a tagline that another wrestler in their company has. I mean, come on now. MVP is basically going off about Apollo's choices. Apollo basically comes out, says he's a self-made man, stated that he's keeping up and pushing and pushing. The only person MVP cares about is himself. We got 2 matches out of this whole setup, which is really good. Apollo flips out in the ring, but in the end, MVP is going to win. MVP misses a missile. You could tell I'm not feeling great. MVP's missing with a running kick, with a running drop kick. Apollo takes control, spine buster. MVP hits his marks. Apollo on top and falls. MVP with a fisherman suplex. You don't see many people winning with their fisherman suplex. I mean, after Apollo gets down there, Lashley gets attacked. It basically takes him out. As the full Nelson and Ricochet and Alexander come down. As Ricochet and Alexander basically comes down and tries to save him, and basically does. And we get Ricochet, poor Ricochet, trying to mount some offense against Lashley when he does. And, Lashley throwing Ricochet around like it was caber tossing in Scotland. I've been to a caber tossing event. It is really interesting to see them throw that stuff. And then, how do I have to say it? Lashley wins. It's basically he's driven into the mat. It was a really good match. It was great seeing Ricochet and Alexander on TV. So the main event night, though, that night was McIntyre and Asuka working really well together. Drew and Dolph start. Drew throws Dolph around. Slapped, gets him slapped. Drew's in full control. Asuka is in and Banks is in. Bayley says screaming main event. Both are talking trash. Asuka's running it in the corner. Both champions are standing strong. I mean, the spot that happened with the roll up was Ziggler, and then he hits a DDT. Sasha comes in and takes control. Banks kicks Asuka and knees in the face. The only move I didn't see Banks do the entire time was the Meteora, which is interesting because she usually does that once every time. After a point, Drew's in control and throws Dolph around like a ragdoll. And then the Banks statement and Asuka in the Asuka lock, and Banks gives the pin. So pretty much this week was pretty simplistic, very easy going. I mean, the only other thing is like, the only match that was really good was the triple threat all week, and that was it, and that was on NXT. What's going to be next for these people for Extreme Rules? Who knows? I know that tomorrow with NXT at Great American Bash, they have EO versus Banks. They have Cole versus Lee. They have the 4-way elimination for the number one contendership of the women's championship. All these great matches that are lining up, Loomis and Strong. I'm going to tell you now, Cole is probably going to win, which really stinks. But I wouldn't put Lee out of it. But there's another way I thought about this earlier, and this might work out, is that try picturing Lee with Cole fighting tomorrow and Cross intervenes. That would be interesting. Just because of the fact that it makes it more sense, because that way both of them keep their belts. You have a program with Finn, and then you have a program with Cross. That could happen. Loomis is going to win. You've got Candice, Mia, Tegan, and Dakota in the Elimination 4-way. It's going to end up being between Dakota and Tegan, but Tegan's going to win. I think that completely. Banks and EO. EO is going to win. Sasha can actually eat the pin. That's kind of not any difference. So, I mean, there's a lot of good things going to happen tomorrow. I think my sister's going to start watching AEW. So I'll get stuff from her possibly, see what she thinks, which would be cool. We're going to talk about the logo. The reason being is that I got this logo done is because I needed something to represent what I stand for. I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan, huge. And to me, wrestling is like Dragon Ball. It sounds weird, but hear me out. You have two of the main characters in the whole series fighting against each other to be who's the best, who's the strongest. And in wrestling, with the storylines and same thing in anime, it's the same thing in wrestling. You build a story up to make a big payoff. It's the same thing in every other thing. Anime tells a different style of it because it's not live action. And for me, for being a Dragon Ball fan, the one arc that worked out really well for me that made me really appreciate it more and all the art styles and stuff was the Tournament of Power. Hence why Vegeta on that logo is Evolution, and Goku, as close as it could be, is Mastered Ultra Instinct. For me, having these two guys fight constantly in the world that they live in, which is their ring, makes more sense. Wrestling is basically the same premise. People fighting in order to get ahead and be stronger and compete and do things we don't imagine. So the other thing I got to talk about, NXT UK. There are unknown things going around. If they keep NXT UK, I mean, I really do. All those talented people would be great. And because Pete Dunne is stuck over there, have him go against Walter and have him go another crack at getting him his title back. Why not, right? if there's travel ban is still up, which they did, a lot of the European countries did for the United States, why not have, Tony Storm go after the UK women's title and then have Pete Dunne go after the tag titles, It is very interesting to see that what could happen. I hope they do tapings. I hope they do a lot of fun things, but I can't wait to see what comes out of it. Other than that, pizza. I used to work for a pizza shop, and I used to ask people how they made it, so I know a few things about it. But here in Massachusetts, where I live, Espresso's pizza is really good, and usually my go-to would be peppery mushroom and green peppers from Espresso's, which is one of those other things that goes with the sweet sauce. It's really good. So, other than that, hit the bell, subscribe, spread the word out. If anybody hasn't seen the show, tell them about it. Tap it for notifications, beat the crap out of it. There won't be any justice if you don't beat that bell up and break it. Support Fightful.com, BellsToBelles every time. Get your Fightful gear like I did. Just be good. Park. I do have a Boston accent a lot of times. I could say wicked and be like crazy or pissa, but it all depends. When you get work in communications, you get trained not to do those things. Go to Bellstobelles.com, Fightful.com, be a select member, join Fightful Select. It's well worth it. Pick one of the tiers and stuff. The other thing also is Warren's doing a show on Thursday. Dorchester. Revere. Car. If I'm not thinking of it, I could say car. But, coffee. Car. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. But Warren has a show on Thursday nights at 9. Hit his bell up. Go see the show. Join his Patreon too. Other than that, Fightful's got a lot of stuff coming up. You've got Monday night reviews with Denise. You've got Warren doing the best deed of the day with that no more quarantine hair. Tomorrow with Alex and Louis. And then also you got Friday night. Should be interesting. The other thing also is that if you live in the United States, have a good 4th, have a safe 4th. I just got nothing but love for you guys, and if you need anything, you know where to go. You can hit me up on Throwback978 on Twitter. Other than that, be safe, much love, and just have a good time. I mean, life's too short. Just pay it forward. Do a good deed, man. But hit all these people up. Support everybody. And it's much appreciated. Thank you for coming tonight.